It started with what looked like a normal day at Priest ATL, but the second that footage surfaced, everything changed. The internet is calling it one of the biggest betrayals in love and hip-hop history. A hidden camera, quietly recording behind the racks of designer clothes, captured Rasheeda in a moment that no one was supposed to see. She wasn't posing, she wasn't performing, she was venting. And what she said about Jasmine Washington, the woman who turned her marriage upside down years ago, has fans questioning everything they thought they knew about her. The clip is under a minute long, but in that minute Rasheeda's calm, collected image cracks, her tone shifts, her voice trembles, and the truth raw messy and emotional slips out. The video begins with Rasheeda leaning on the counter, phone in hand, speaking to someone off camera. Her guard is down, her words unfiltered. At first, it sounds like a casual conversation about the past. But then she says Jasmine's name and that's when things spiral. She doesn't hold back. The pain from years ago floods through her voice. People think I forgave her, she says quietly, but forgiveness doesn't mean I forgot what she did to my family. Her eyes glance toward the door, as if even saying the name feels dangerous. That's when the unseen person replies, but she reached out again, right? Rasheeda exhales sharply, almost laughing in disbelief. Yeah, she reached out, but not because she's sorry, because she's desperate. Within hours, that hidden footage somehow leaks online. Fans are stunned, unsure whether to feel sympathy or disappointment. Was Rasheeda truly over the past, or has she been holding on to that resentment all along? Twitter threads explode with theories, old clips resurface, and even castmates start dropping cryptic reactions. Some say she's finally speaking her truth, others call it hypocrisy. But the biggest question is who filmed her, and why was that camera even there? The more people replay the footage, the more details they notice. The trembling in her voice, the tear she quickly wipes away. The mention of Kirk's name in the background each second feels like a clue to a bigger secret. And then, just as the clip cuts off, Rasheeda says something that sends chills through the fandom. If the world knew what really happened, they'd stop calling me the strong one. That single line leaves viewers speechless. What did she mean? What secret could possibly still be hidden after all these years? As the internet explodes with speculation, VH1 insiders claim the leak wasn't random at all. Some whisper it's part of a new storyline, others swear it's revenge. Whatever it is, one thing's clear this time: Rasheeda isn't the one in control of the narrative, and when she finds out who betrayed her, the fallout might just be worse than anything the cameras have ever caught before. The day after the clip leaked, Atlanta felt different. People were whispering in beauty salons, barbershops, and coffee lines, like the city itself was holding its breath. Everyone wanted to know if Rasheeda had really said those words about Jasmine, and if she had, what that meant for her marriage, her brand, and her fans who had stood by her through every scandal. Outside Pressed ATL camera flashes popped like fireworks. Paparazzi who hadn't shown up in years suddenly filled the sidewalks. One of them shouted, "Rasheeda, do you regret what you said?" But she didn't answer. She just walked past, eyes hidden behind dark shades, lips pressed tight, her silence saying more than any statement could. Inside the store, the mood was heavy. Employees avoided eye contact, pretending to fold clothes that didn't need folding. The same security camera that had caught the original footage was now turned off, covered with a black cloth, like a reminder of how fragile privacy had become. Kirk was there too, pacing near the back room, his phone glued to his hand. "We gotta get ahead of this," he said, his voice low but tense. "People are running with it. They think you meant it." Rasheeda finally looked up from her desk. "I did mean it," she replied quietly, her voice steady but cold. "I just didn't mean for the whole world to hear it." Kirk's eyes narrowed. "You know how this looks, right? You've been preaching forgiveness for years. That's your whole brand." She laughed dryly. "My brand? Kirk, this isn't about a brand. This is about me still being human." She pushed her phone across the desk, showing him a message thread. Jasmine's name was at the top. Kirk hesitated before picking it up. She texted again, Rasheeda said. Same number, same tone, like she's just checking in, like nothing ever happened. Kirk scrolled, his jaw tightening. "She's doing this on purpose," he muttered. "She wants a reaction." Rasheeda leaned back, crossing her arms. Then she got one. Outside, the internet was in full chaos. Clips of the hidden footage were being analyzed frame by frame. Fans claimed they could hear another voice in the background. Someone male, someone familiar. Others insisted the audio was edited to make her look worse. Hashtags like #RASHEEDA exposed and #JasmineKnows started trending. Even Mona Scott-Young, the show's executive producer, was dragged into the mix. with fans accusing VH1 of leaking the tape for ratings. Mona posted a short statement saying she was deeply disturbed by the invasion of privacy. But that didn't stop anyone from speculating. One fan tweeted, "You really think a camera just happened to be recording in her store? Come on now. This is VH1." As the noise grew louder, Rasheeda finally broke her silence. She posted a black screen on Instagram with a single caption, "Sometimes people record your pain and call it entertainment." The post hit 1 million views in less than an hour. Comments poured in, some defending her, others tearing her apart. One follower wrote, "She's only sorry she got caught." Another replied, "Nah, that woman been through too much. Y'all forget she's human." Celebrities started chiming in too. Carly Red commented with a side-eye emoji, while Mimi Faust posted a cryptic story. Funny how truth sounds different when it's not scripted. Behind the scenes, Rasheeda's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Producers wanted statements. Blogs wanted exclusives. And even Jasmine herself had sent a message that simply read, "So I guess this is how you really feel." Rasheeda stared at the text for a long time before typing back, then deleting every word. Kirk noticed her hesitation. "Don't respond," he said. "That's what she wants." But Rasheeda's fingers hovered over the screen. "She deserves to hear it from me," she whispered. "All of it." She hit call. The phone rang once, twice. Then Jasmine's voice came through, calm but sharp. "So you finally want to talk." Rasheeda's breath caught. "I didn't plan for any of this," she said, "but maybe it's good that it happened." Jasmine let out a quiet laugh. "Good for who? For you, so you can cry on TV again. Or, for me, so I get dragged all over the internet." Rasheeda's tone shifted. "Don't act like you didn't start this," she snapped. "You knew what you were doing when you went after Kirk. You knew what that would do to my family." Jasmine didn't back down. "You think you own forgiveness? Rasheeda, you've been smiling on camera like you moved on, but your heart never did." There was silence on the line. Then Jasmine said softly, "I lost everything too. But nobody cares about that part." Rasheeda closed her eyes, her voice trembling for the first time. "You didn't lose everything. You lost the lie you built." "I lost my peace." She hung up before Jasmine could respond. Kirk stood there, stunned. "You called her," he said under his breath. "Yeah," Rasheeda replied. "And I said what I needed to say." Within minutes, Jasmine went live on Instagram. Her eyes were red, her tone defensive but emotional. "Since everyone's already talking, let's just talk," she began. "That phone call. Yeah, it happened. And yeah, she said she still blames me. But what she's not saying is what Kirk told me back then." The chat section exploded. Thousands of people joined instantly. Jasmine continued, "He told me they were done. He told me she moved on. That's the only reason I believed anything he said." Back at Pressed, Kirk's face went pale. "She's lying," he muttered, pacing again. Rasheeda looked at him for a long moment. "Is she?" The question hung in the air like smoke. He stopped pacing. "You really think I would?" She didn't answer. Instead, she picked up her bag, walked past him, and said quietly, "I think I'm done defending people who can't defend me." The next morning, TMZ ran a headline, "Rasheeda and Jasmine clash after hidden camera scandal. Kirk accused of rekindling old lies." VH1 insiders confirmed they were closely monitoring the situation for possible inclusion in the next season. Fans flooded the comments with wild theories, some claiming Kirk and Jasmine had been in contact recently. Others suggesting Mona herself orchestrated everything to boost ratings. But the one thing everyone agreed on was that Rasheeda's calm, unbothered image was officially gone. That evening, when Rasheeda returned home, Kirk was waiting on the porch. "You gonna keep treating me like I'm the enemy?" he asked. She dropped her keys on the table and sighed. "You keep acting like I'm supposed to forget what happened." "I tried. I really did. But every time her name comes up, I remember how small I felt, how you made me feel." Kirk ran a hand over his face. "It's been years." She looked up at him sharply. "And I've been pretending for years." He sat down, defeated. "You want me to fix it? Tell me how." She shook her head. "You can't fix what broke my trust. You can only stop breaking it more." The air between them felt heavy, full of all the things they never said. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed and the faint sound of a phone camera clicking echoed. Someone was recording again. The moment wasn't private anymore. It never really was. Across town, Jasmine posted another live video. This time, she wasn't angry, she was crying. "I didn't ask for this," she said softly. "I didn't leak that video. I've been trying to move on with my life, but every time I try, it's like the past drags me back." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "And whoever leaked that footage, I hope you know you just opened wounds that never healed." Back at home, Rasheeda watched that clip alone in her bedroom. For the first time, she didn't feel anger, she felt exhaustion. All the pretending, the interviews, the smiles, it had caught up with her. She whispered to herself, maybe we're both still bleeding from the same cut. Her phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from an unknown number. You think Jasmine leaked it, but it wasn't her. She froze. The message ended with a name she hadn't seen in years. Rasheeda stared at the screen, heart pounding. If that was true, everything she thought she knew about the betrayal was wrong. And as the city buzzed with gossip and headlines, one thing was certain, this was far from over. Rasheeda didn't sleep that night. The message from Carly replayed in her mind again and again, like a loop she couldn't escape. You think Jasmine leaked it, but it wasn't her. She stared at those words until the screen dimmed. By morning, she'd already decided she needed answers. She showed up at Carly Red's boutique before it even opened, waiting by the door in oversized shades and a hoodie. When Carly arrived, her jaw dropped. Girl, what are you doing here this early? She asked, forcing a nervous laugh. Rasheeda didn't smile. You tell me, she said, holding up her phone. You sent me this last night. Start talking. Carly glanced around to make sure no one was nearby. Lower your voice, she whispered, fumbling with her keys. You don't want to do this out here. Inside, the tension was thick. Rasheeda leaned against the counter, arms folded. Was it you? She asked flatly. Carly exhaled. No, but I know who it was. She hesitated, watching Rasheeda's reaction. You're not gonna like it. Rasheeda's voice dropped. Try me. Carly stepped closer. Someone inside VH1 leaked it. Someone who's been close to Mona. They've been recording behind the scenes to stir drama for next season. Rasheeda's brow furrowed. So you're saying this was all a setup? That someone's been planting cameras? Carly nodded. Baby, think about it. The angle of that footage wasn't from your store's cameras. It was from a handheld. Somebody was there. And you know who was hanging around that day? She paused dramatically. Young Jock. Rasheeda's eyes widened. Why would he? Carly cut her off. You know how he is. He's always talking to production. He probably thought it'd be funny until it blew up. Rasheeda shook her head. No, Jock wouldn't do that to me. Carly raised an eyebrow. You sure about that? Because he's been running his mouth ever since the clip dropped. Go look at his stories. Later that day, Rasheeda did. She opened Instagram and watched a series of videos on Jock's account. He was laughing with friends, saying things like people always act innocent till the camera rolls and you never know who's watching. Each word hit harder than the last. The comments were full of laughing emojis and tags like hashtag pressed drama and hashtag caught in camera. Rasheeda slammed her phone down on the counter. Kirk, who had been standing nearby, asked quietly, What now? She looked at him with a mix of anger and disbelief. Now, I'm gonna find out who thinks my life is a storyline. That evening, production called. Mona herself wanted to meet. When Rasheeda arrived at the VH1 offices, Mona greeted her with that calm, media-trained smile. You know how this business works. She began, motioning for her to sit. Things leak. Stories spread. It's unfortunate, but it happens. Rasheeda crossed her legs, unamused. Don't do that, she said sharply. Don't talk to me like this is business. This was my store, my life. Someone put a camera on me without my consent. Mona sighed. And I take that very seriously. But if you go public against VH1, you'll be breaching your contract. We can fix this internally. Rasheeda leaned forward. Fix it by pretending again. Her voice rose. I've been the one keeping this show afloat, while y'all feed off my pain. Mona's tone stayed even. That pain built your empire, Rasheeda. Without it, you wouldn't have fans who care this much. The room fell silent. Rasheeda stood up slowly. Then maybe it's time I stop giving y'all pain to sell. She walked out before Mona could reply. Outside the building, her phone buzzed again, this time, a voicemail from Jasmine. I didn't leak that clip, the message said softly. And I think I know who did. But if I tell you, you have to promise not to come for me. Rasheeda's pulse quickened. She called back instantly, but Jasmine didn't pick up. Instead, Jasmine posted something on her story. A blurry photo of what looked like a production schedule with names highlighted. One of them was Kirk's. When Kirk came home that night, he found Rasheeda waiting, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Why was your name on Jasmine's post? She asked. Kirk frowned. What post? She showed him the screenshot. He froze. That's not what it looks like. Rasheeda's voice trembled. Then tell me what it is. He hesitated before speaking. I was helping production with some behind-the-scenes stuff. They said they wanted to do a surprise anniversary segment for us. I didn't know about any camera in your store. She took a step closer. So you're telling me the day that footage was filmed, you were working with VH1? Kirk nodded slowly. Yeah, but not like that. Rasheeda turned away, trying to breathe through the anger. You've been lying to me again, she whispered. After everything. Kirk ran a hand over his head. Baby, it wasn't like that. I swear. She faced him, eyes glossy. Every time you say that, it is like that. She grabbed her purse and walked out. Kirk called after her, but she didn't stop. Hours later, she showed up at Jasmine's apartment. Jasmine opened the door in shock. You actually came. Rasheeda's tone was icy. You said you know who did it. Talk. Jasmine hesitated, then stepped aside to let her in. Look, she began. I got this email 2 weeks ago. Someone told me there was footage of you talking about me. They offered to sell it. I thought it was a joke until I saw the clip online. And when I checked the sender's name, she paused. It wasn't Kirk, it was someone from his team. Rasheeda's jaw clenched. His team? Jasmine nodded. One of his old assistants. The same one who used to handle his press stuff back in the day. Apparently, VH1 paid for the footage after it leaked. Rasheeda sat down, silent. Jasmine continued. I didn't want to be dragged back into this. I didn't even respond. But whoever leaked that, they wanted both of us to look bad. Rasheeda studied her face carefully. For the first time in years, Jasmine didn't look like an enemy. She looked like someone who'd been caught in the same trap. So you're saying we were both played? Rasheeda asked quietly. Jasmine nodded. Welcome to reality TV. As they talked, a producer's number flashed across Rasheeda's phone. She ignored it, but then Jasmine's phone lit up too with the same number. They looked at each other, realization dawning. They're watching us, Jasmine whispered. Even right now. Rasheeda's stomach dropped. She turned her phone off and said, then we're gonna give them something they don't expect. The next day, the internet went wild again when a new clip surfaced, not leaked this time, but posted by Rasheeda herself. It showed her and Jasmine sitting together, side by side, no makeup, no filters. We're tired, Rasheeda said to the camera. Tired of being puppets for other people's profit? This isn't about ratings anymore. It's about truth. Jasmine nodded beside her. We've both been lied to. We've both been used. But now, we're telling our own story. Fans were stunned. The comments section exploded. Wait, they're friends now. One user wrote, this plot twist wilder than any season finale. Even Mona posted a single word on Twitter. Interesting. But behind the calm smiles on screen, Rasheeda knew the battle wasn't over. Kirk still hadn't told her everything, and she wasn't sure if she even wanted to know what came next. By the following morning, Atlanta couldn't stop talking about that video. Every blog, every radio show, every gossip page had one headline: Rasheeda and Jasmine unite against VH1. Fans were calling it the most shocking alliance in love and hip-hop history. But not everyone was celebrating. Kirk was furious. He woke up to hundreds of notifications, most of them tagging him with comments like this man been lying again, and Rasheeda finally woke up. He stormed into the living room, still in his robe, and shouted, why would you do that without talking to me first? Rasheeda didn't flinch. She was already dressed, phone in hand, eyes calm but distant. Because I don't owe you that anymore, she said. You do when you drag our marriage into the mess again. Kirk snapped. People think I leaked that footage because of you and Jasmine running your mouths together. She turned toward him slowly. So you're saying this is my fault? Kirk rubbed his temples, pacing. I'm saying you don't think before you act. Now production's calling me not. He threw his phone on the couch. They said we violated NDA terms. We might lose the show. Rasheeda crossed her arms. Maybe that's a good thing. Kirk stopped pacing. Excuse me. She met his gaze, her voice low. Maybe it's time to stop letting cameras run our lives. Maybe losing the show is how we get our peace back. Kirk laughed bitterly. Peace? You think they'll let us walk away that easy? They'll twist this story 10 more times before they're done. He pointed toward the TV, where a gossip show was already playing clips of their joint video. The host's voice echoed through the room. Fans are divided. Some say Rasheeda's finally breaking free from the narrative. Others believe it's just another staged stunt for next season. Rasheeda grabbed the remote and muted the TV. Let them say whatever they want. I'm done explaining myself. But she wasn't done, not really. Later that afternoon, she met Jasmine again at a quiet cafe outside the city. No cameras, no glam teams, just two women trying to figure out what came next. Jasmine looked nervous. I didn't think we'd get this much attention, she said, stirring her drink. Rasheeda smiled faintly. That's because we finally did something real. Jasmine nodded. Yeah. But real doesn't always sell. Rasheeda's expression softened. Maybe it's time we stop worrying about selling anything. As they spoke, a man sitting near the window kept glancing over. Jasmine noticed first. Do you know him? she whispered. Rasheeda turned to look. He quickly looked away, pretending to scroll his phone. Something about him felt familiar. That's one of VH1's production assistants, she said under her breath. What's he doing here? Jasmine's pulse quickened. Maybe they're trying to see what we'll do next. Rasheeda picked up her bag. Then let's not give them the satisfaction. They paid the bill and left through the back exit, slipping into Jasmine's car. As they drove off, Jasmine muttered, "It's like we're being watched everywhere we go." Meanwhile, at VH1 headquarters, Mona Scott-Young was sitting in a private meeting with her team. The atmosphere was tense. One producer slammed his notepad down. "They're turning the whole fanbase against us," he said, the narratives slipping. Mona stayed calm, scrolling through her phone. "Good, let it slip. Controversy keeps the lights on," another producer asked. "So what's the plan?" Mona smiled faintly. "We wait, they'll come back. They always do." Back in Atlanta, Kirk sat in his studio, scrolling through old photos, him and Rasheeda at red carpets, family dinners, interviews. Every picture looked like a version of happiness that no longer existed. He called her once, twice, no answer. Then he opened his messages. One unread text from an unknown number stared back at him. It read, "If you want the footage gone for good, meet me tonight. Alone." There was no name, just an address on the outskirts of the city. Kirk hesitated, then grabbed his keys. Rasheeda was at home when she realized Kirk was missing. His studio lights were off. His phone went straight to voicemail. She called Carly. "You talked to Kirk today?" she asked. Carly sounded half asleep. "No, why? What's going on?" Rasheeda hesitated. "I think he's meeting someone. About the footage." Carly sat up. "Girl, you better not let him handle that alone. You know how these people play." Rasheeda grabbed her jacket. "Yeah, I know." Kirk arrived at the location, a dimly lit parking lot behind an abandoned warehouse. A single car was parked there, engine idling. He approached cautiously. The window rolled down, revealing a man in a black hoodie. "You the one who texted me?" Kirk asked. The man nodded. "I've got what you want." He held up a small drive. "Everything, the raw footage, the deleted clips, the contracts. But it comes at a price." Kirk frowned. "How much?" The man smirked. "Not money. Silence. You walk away from the show, and I make all this disappear." Kirk hesitated. "Why would you help me?" The man's tone darkened. "Because I used to work for Mona, and I'm tired of watching her ruin people for ratings." Before Kirk could respond, headlights flared behind him. Another car pulled up fast. Rasheeda stepped out, slamming the door. "Kirk!" she shouted. He turned, startled. "What are you doing here?" She walked toward him. "Saving you from another mistake." The man in the hoodie muttered something under his breath and tossed the drive onto the ground. "Consider that a free sample," he said, before driving off. Rasheeda picked it up. "What's on it?" Kirk shook his head. "I don't know." They got back into the car and played the files on her laptop. What they saw made their blood run cold. There were hours of unseen recordings, private conversations. Confessionals never aired. Even producers, coaching cast members on what to say. One clip showed a producer whispering to Kirk before a scene, "Bring up Jasmine. We need a reaction out of Rasheeda today." Another clip showed Mona discussing how to reignite old wounds for the next season. Rasheeda's hands trembled. "So they planned this," she whispered. "They wanted me to break." Kirk looked sick. "We've been played this whole time." She closed the laptop slowly. "Not anymore." The next morning, they called Jasmine. "We have proof," Rasheeda said. "Proof they set all this up. We're going public." Jasmine hesitated. "You sure about that? You know they'll come for all of us." Rasheeda's tone hardened. "Let them. I'm done being scared." That afternoon, the three of them met at a studio downtown. Kirk stood in the background as Jasmine adjusted the mic. Rasheeda sat in front of the camera and pressed record. Her voice was steady this time, not angry, not emotional, just honest. "For years, people watched our lives like entertainment. They laughed when we cried, they judged when we forgave, and they believed what they were told. But here's the truth: they built stories around our pain. They leaked private moments. They controlled what you saw. And now, we're showing you what they didn't want you to see." Jasmine stepped into frame beside her. "This isn't just about gossip. It's about manipulation. They wanted us to hate each other, and it worked until now." Kirk added quietly from behind the camera, "We're done being their storyline." The video dropped that evening. Within hours, it exploded. Millions of views. Fans flooded the comments with shock, support, and outrage. "VH1 needs to be exposed," one user wrote. "This is bigger than love and hip-hop." Reporters started reaching out. Hashtags like hashtag VH1 exposed and hashtag free, RASHEEDA trended worldwide. For the first time, Rasheeda didn't feel like a character in someone else's script. She felt like herself again, but deep down, she knew this victory would come with consequences. And somewhere, Mona was already watching. By the time Kirk walked back into the studio that afternoon, everyone could feel the tension humming in the air, like static before a storm. Rasheeda sat in her chair with her arms folded, her jaw tight, her eyes distant. The producers had already whispered to her about the footage, about how fast it had spread inside the VH1 offices, and now everyone was just waiting to see how she would handle it. Kirk tried to keep his voice calm, saying, "Baby, listen, we can fix this. It doesn't have to go public." But Rasheeda's voice cracked as she shot back, "Too late. You know what Jasmine said? She said I built my whole brand on pretending to be loyal while you embarrassed me. She said, I never forgave you. I just hid it better than you lied." Her words hit like glass breaking. Kirk didn't know what to say. Cameras were rolling, but this time, no one cared about keeping it professional. This was raw, unscripted, and painful. One of the producers, Tony, tried to step in, telling them to take 5, but Rasheeda stood up, her voice low but steady, saying, "Nah, let it roll. Everybody wants real. Here's real. I'm done being the silent wife while y'all make money off my pain." Her declaration stunned everyone. Even Jasmine, watching from a monitor in the green room, looked uneasy. The woman she had mocked just hours earlier now sounded like she was breaking free. And for a brief second, the guilt showed on Jasmine's face, but then she caught herself, straightened up, and muttered, "Whatever. She's been fake from day one." As the crew watched the scene unfold, Kirk's phone buzzed. It was Mona Scott. He hesitated before answering, but Rasheeda snatched the phone and put it on speaker. Mona's voice came through sharp and nervous. "Rasheeda, we need to talk. I just got off a call with the network. They're saying Jasmine's trying to sell the rest of the footage to TMZ." Everyone froze. Kirk's eyes widened. "What? She can't do that. That's breach of contract." Mona replied, "She doesn't care about the contract, Kirk. She's saying she's got tapes of both of you private stuff. If that hits the internet, VH1 won't be able to protect you." Rasheeda's heart dropped. The idea that Jasmine had more footage, more secrets felt like a nightmare. She turned to Kirk, her voice trembling. "You mean to tell me she had a camera in our house?" Kirk shook his head. No, I didn't know she," but the words caught in his throat. Rasheeda realized he wasn't sure, and that uncertainty broke something inside her. She looked straight into the camera lens and said, "You think you know somebody, and then a hidden camera shows you the truth. That's what betrayal really looks like." The footage continued rolling even after she stormed out of the studio. Kirk chased after her into the hallway, trying to catch her before she reached the parking lot. She turned, tears streaking her face, and said, "You made me the villain for years. Every rumor, every headline, I stood by you. But now I look like the fool who didn't know her husband was sleeping with her enemy while being filmed." Kirk tried to grab her hand, but she pulled away. "Rasheeda, it wasn't like that," he said. She shot back, "Then how was it?" "Because right now, it looks exactly like that." Paparazzi were already gathering outside, tipped off by someone from inside the studio. Flashes exploded as she got into her car, her face half hidden behind her sunglasses. Kirk stood frozen as the cameras captured every second of his downfall. The next morning, blogs exploded with headlines like "Rasheeda breaks down after secret footage leak," and "Jasmine threatens to drop more tapes." Social media became a war zone. Fans took sides, hashtags trended, and everyone wanted to know one thing. What exactly was on those tapes? Back at home, Rasheeda locked herself in her room, ignoring calls from producers and publicists. In a quiet moment, she scrolled through her old messages with Jasmine. She stopped at one from months ago, where Jasmine had written, "You'll thank me one day when you finally see the truth." Those words hit her like a prophecy. The betrayal wasn't just about Kirk anymore, it was about trust. About how fame turns private pain into public entertainment. She whispered to herself, "They all wanted a storyline. Well, here it is." Meanwhile, Kirk was at Mona's office, pacing as she tried to calm him down. "Look," Mona said, "the network wants to control the damage. They're offering Jasmine a payout to stop the release, but she's refusing unless she gets airtime." Kirk's voice rose. "Airtime? After all this?" Mona nodded. "She knows she's the hottest name right now. The leak made her relevant again, and she's milking it." Kirk slammed his fist on the table. "She's destroying my family, Mona." She looked at him coldly and said, "No, Kirk. She's just showing the world what was already broken." That night, Rasheeda's mother came over. She sat on the edge of the bed and said softly, "Baby, I told you before. Cameras don't care who they hurt, they just keep rolling." Rasheeda leaned into her mother's arms, whispering, "I feel like I'm losing myself, Mama. I don't even know who I am outside of this show." Her mother stroked her hair and said, "Then maybe it's time you remind them who you really are." Those words lingered with Rasheeda all night. By morning, she had made a decision. She texted Kirk to meet her at the studio. When he arrived, she stood in front of the cameras again, no makeup, no script. "I want to say something," she began. "Everybody's talking about hidden cameras, leaks, betrayal, but here's the truth. You can't hide forever behind a storyline. I loved a man who hurt me, but I also let a show define that love. So if Jasmine wants to expose me, fine, but I'm not hiding anymore." Her honesty hit everyone hard. Even Kirk, standing off camera, looked like he didn't recognize her. The crew went silent. Then Mona, watching from the control room, whispered, "This is it. This is real." And just like that, the same cameras that once humiliated her were now capturing her rebirth. But as the episode wrapped and the lights dimmed, Jasmine posted one final cryptic message on Instagram. "You think you've seen the truth? Wait till part 2 drops." The internet went into a frenzy. Fans flooded the comments, theories spread, and VH1 executives panicked. The war wasn't over. It was only beginning. The following week felt like the longest of Rasheeda's life. Every time she opened her phone, another headline screamed her name. Rasheeda vs. Jasmine. Part 2, imminent. Leakgate continues. What's next for the Frost family? Gossip blogs posted frame-by-frame breakdowns of the hidden camera clip, speculating about what Jasmine might have in her possession. Kirk tried to manage the chaos by calling lawyers, but Rasheeda didn't want to hear another word about damage control. She was tired of reacting. She wanted answers. So, one evening, without telling Kirk, she drove to a quiet restaurant outside Atlanta where Jasmine had agreed to meet. The air was thick with tension the moment Jasmine walked in, wearing oversized sunglasses and that same smug smile that had driven Rasheeda crazy for years. "You came," Jasmine said, sliding into the booth. Rasheeda replied quietly, "I didn't come to fight. I came to understand." Jasmine laughed, low and sharp. "Understand what? That your husband lied. That your marriage was a brand deal disguised as love." Rasheeda didn't flinch. "Understand why you filmed it. You didn't just want revenge. You wanted to destroy me." Jasmine leaned back, crossing her arms. "No, I wanted people to see who you really are. The perfect wife, the queen of forgiveness. Please. You're just as cold as Kirk. You just smile better." Rasheeda's voice trembled but stayed steady. "You think this is helping you? You're becoming what they made you, bait for drama." Jasmine's face hardened. "I was always the villain, right? So I decided to own it." The waiter passed by, sensing the tension, and quickly walked away. Rasheeda leaned forward. "What else do you have, Jasmine?" There was a pause. Jasmine looked straight at her. "Enough to end your little empire. Phone calls, texts, even voice notes from Kirk admitting things you don't want to hear." Rasheeda froze. "Why are you doing this?" Jasmine shrugged. "Because they all used me. Mona, Kirk, VH1, they got rich off my pain. So now I'm cashing out." Rasheeda shook her head. "This isn't cashing out. This is burning everything down." Jasmine smirked. "Sometimes that's the only way to start fresh." She stood up, dropped a 20 on the table, and said, "Tell Kirk he'll see me soon." As Jasmine walked out, Rasheeda's phone buzzed. It was Mona, her voice frantic. "Where are you?" Jasmine just went live on Instagram. Rasheeda ran to her car, pulled up the live feed, and felt her stomach drop. Jasmine was sitting in what looked like a hotel room, holding her phone close. "Since they like to paint me as the problem," she said to her viewers, "let's talk about the real problem." She tapped the screen, and suddenly, a voice recording played. It was Kirk, saying, "Look, Mona said we gotta keep this quiet, but Jasmine's got stuff on me and Rasheeda. If that leaks, it's over." The comments section exploded. Fans were flooding the live chat, tagging VH1 and demanding answers. Jasmine smiled into the camera. "Oh, this is just a preview. Wait till y'all hear what comes next." Rasheeda turned off her phone and sat in silence, her hands shaking. Kirk called her moments later, his voice breaking. "Rasheeda, please tell me you're not watching that live." She whispered. "Too late. The world's watching it now." By morning, every outlet had picked up the story. Entertainment Tonight, TMZ, The Shade Room. Everyone was talking about the leaked recording. VH1 released a statement calling it unauthorized and deeply concerning, but that did little to calm the chaos. Fans demanded transparency. Some supported Rasheeda, calling her a victim of manipulation. Others accused her of faking the breakdown for ratings. Mona called an emergency meeting at her Atlanta office. Rasheeda walked in, exhausted, while Kirk sat with his head in his hands. Mona spoke first. "We have a crisis. Jasmine's refusing to hand over the rest of the footage unless we give her full creative control over her next storyline." Kirk snapped, "Creative control? She's blackmailing us." Mona replied, "Call it what you want, but the network's considering it. Ratings are through the roof." Rasheeda stared at her in disbelief. "You're going to reward her for this?" Mona sighed. "I'm trying to save a franchise. And honestly, Rasheeda, your raw moment on camera saved the episode. People finally saw the real you." Rasheeda's voice rose. "The real me? That was my life falling apart." "Mona, not a plot twist." Kirk stood, glaring at Mona. "You better fix this before I do." Mona crossed her arms. "Careful, Kirk, you're not the victim here." Later that night, as they drove home, Rasheeda and Kirk sat in silence. The car was filled with the sound of rain tapping against the windows. Finally, she spoke. "You knew about some of it, didn't you?" Kirk sighed. "Rasheeda," she cut him off. "Don't. Just tell me the truth." He looked at her, his face drawn. "I didn't know about the recordings, but I knew Jasmine had something she could use against me. I thought if I kept her calm, it would go away." Rasheeda's voice broke. "You didn't protect me, Kirk. You protected yourself." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "You always do." When they reached home, Kirk tried to apologize, but Rasheeda walked straight to the bedroom, shut the door, and turned off her phone. She spent the night staring at the ceiling, wondering how her love story had become a cautionary tale. The next morning, Jasmine posted another teaser clip, a blurred screenshot showing what looked like Kirk and Rasheeda in their living room. The caption read, "Truth isn't hidden forever." Within hours, #RASHEED, a leak trended worldwide. Fans dissected every pixel, searching for clues. Kirk's phone wouldn't stop ringing, and Mona's office was in full-blown panic mode. But amid the chaos, Rasheeda did something no one expected. She went live on her own Instagram. Sitting calmly in her kitchen, she said, "I'm not here to fight fire with fire. I'm here to tell my truth." Her voice was steady, her tone sincere. "Yes, there were mistakes. Yes, I've been hurt. But I'm not going to let anyone profit off my pain again. Not Jasmine, not VH1, not anyone." Fans flooded the comments with support. Within minutes, her live hit 1 million views. She ended it by saying, "You can't expose what I've already owned. I'm done hiding." As the live ended, Mona called her immediately. "Rasheeda, that was powerful. We can build on this. People are rooting for you now." Rasheeda replied softly, "I'm not interested in being built. I just want peace." But peace wasn't coming. Jasmine responded hours later with a tweet, "If she wants peace, she better make sure Kirk tells the whole truth before I do." And that single tweet reignited the fire. Kirk sat in his office, staring at the screen, realizing Jasmine wasn't bluffing. He muttered to himself, "She's not stopping until we're destroyed." What none of them knew, however, was that someone else had started investigating the leak, an inside producer who claimed Jasmine wasn't working alone. And once that truth started to unravel, everything they thought they knew about betrayal was about to take a darker turn. 2 days later, that same inside producer, someone who had worked quietly in VH1's editing department for years, called Mona anonymously. The voice was shaky but determined. "Mona, you need to check the server backups from the Frost footage. There's more than just Jasmine's clips. Someone else planted cameras." Mona froze, gripping her phone tighter. "What are you talking about?" The caller hesitated before saying, "It wasn't just Jasmine. One of your own crew members was selling footage to a gossip site. Jasmine just got her hands on it first." Then the line went dead. Mona sat there in silence, realizing this wasn't just a scandal anymore, it was an inside job. She immediately called Kirk and Rasheeda. "You both need to come to the office. Now." When they arrived, the atmosphere was tense. Mona looked pale, her usual confidence gone. "I got a call," she said quietly. "Someone's been leaking more than what Jasmine had." Kirk frowned. "You mean somebody else filmed us too?" Mona nodded. "And they've been doing it for months." Rasheeda's stomach turned. "Months? You mean even before Jasmine?" Mona looked at her gravely. "I'm afraid so." Rasheeda sat down hard, the room spinning. Kirk clenched his fists. "Who's behind this?" Mona opened her laptop, showing them screenshots. These clips were uploaded from a hidden cloud folder tied to a VH1 production login. Whoever did this had access to every raw file, every moment that never made it on air. She scrolled to a thumbnail that made both Kirk and Rasheeda's hearts stop. It showed them in their living room, arguing late one night. Kirk whispered, "That was never filmed. That was our house." Rasheeda's voice cracked. "Our house? You mean there were cameras in our home?" Mona nodded slowly. And I think Jasmine found out and used it to her advantage. Kirk's voice rose. So she's not the only one. Someone else has been watching us this whole time. Mona sighed. The question is who stood to gain the most? Before anyone could answer, Mona's assistant rushed in, breathless. TMZ just dropped another clip. They're saying Jasmine's not acting alone. They're naming a VH1 producer as her source. Mona grabbed the phone from her hand, and when she saw the name, her blood ran cold. It was Tony, the same producer who had been on set during Rasheeda's breakdown. Rasheeda's eyes widened. Tony? She was the one telling me to let it roll. She knew exactly what was happening. Kirk's voice shook with anger. She betrayed all of us. Mona leaned back, whispering, no wonder Jasmine got the footage so fast. Tony had direct access to the raw reels. Within minutes, social media exploded again. VH1 producer exposed for selling private footage trended across every platform. Fans were outraged. Some demanded the show's cancellation. Others flooded Jasmine's comments, calling her complicit. But Jasmine, ever the opportunist, went live again, saying, they can try to blame Tony all they want, but Kirk and Rasheeda's mess isn't my doing. I just showed y'all the truth. The internet split in half believed Jasmine was still the villain. The other half saw her as a whistleblower. And for the first time, Mona realized this scandal might destroy everything she had built. Back at home, Kirk paced the floor, muttering, we need to sue them all. Rasheeda sat on the couch, numb. And what? Drag this out in court for years while the world laughs. Kirk snapped. So what do you want me to do, Rasheeda? Just let it go. She looked up at him, her eyes hollow. Maybe we should. Maybe the show should end. Kirk froze. End. After everything we've done to build it, she whispered, what's left to build? Our marriage, our privacy. It's all gone. There was a long silence. Kirk's voice softened. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered, but it did. The weight of those words hung between them. Moments later, her phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. It read, you think it's over? Check your email. She opened her laptop and gasped. There was a video file titled The Frost Confession. Her hands trembled as she clicked play. The footage showed Kirk in a dark studio, sitting alone, talking to someone off camera. His voice was quiet but clear. I made mistakes. I hurt her. But I thought keeping certain things secret would protect us. Rasheeda whispered. When was this? Kirk's face turned pale. That was a private interview with Tony. It wasn't supposed to air. She turned to him, her voice breaking. So she's been recording even your confessionals? He nodded. She played us all. The next day, Mona held a press conference. Cameras flashed as she stood at a podium, flanked by security. VH1 is launching an internal investigation, she announced. We take this breach very seriously, but the questions from reporters were relentless. Mona, did you know your team was secretly filming stars in their homes? Was this part of the show's production strategy? Mona dodged each question, her usual composure slipping. Kirk and Rasheeda watched from home, realizing the empire that had once made them famous was crumbling. Later that night, Jasmine posted one more story, a blurry screenshot of Mona and Tony in a heated argument, captioned, when puppeteers lose control of their strings. It went viral instantly. Fans began questioning whether Mona herself had known about the leaks. Conspiracy threads erupted online, some claiming Jasmine and Mona were in on it together, others saying VH1 staged everything for ratings. Rasheeda scrolled through the chaos, whispering, they're all feeding off this. Kirk looked over her shoulder and said, then maybe it's time to starve them. The next morning, Rasheeda made a bold move. She posted a single black screen on Instagram with the words, no more cameras. Within minutes, her comment section filled with thousands of messages from fans begging her not to quit. Mona called immediately. Rasheeda, you can't walk away now. People are finally seeing you. Rasheeda replied calmly, exactly, and that's why I'm done. They saw enough. She hung up and packed her bags. Kirk tried to stop her at the door. Where are you going? She said, somewhere the cameras can't follow. He watched her leave, realizing this time she wasn't bluffing. Later that evening, TMZ reported that Rasheeda Frost had officially filed to suspend filming indefinitely, citing emotional distress and invasion of privacy. The world went quiet for a moment. Then the sympathy started pouring in. Fans rallied behind her. Hashtag Justice for Rasheeda trended. And while Jasmine tried to reclaim attention with another live, the energy had shifted. The public wasn't entertained anymore, they were disturbed. Mona knew it. Kirk knew it. And for the first time, even Jasmine seemed unsure of her next move. But what no one realized was that a final twist was waiting, one that would change everything again. The next twist came from someone no one expected to speak up: Toni herself. 3 days after vanishing from VH1's offices, she reappeared online with a shaky live video from what looked like a cheap motel room. Her hair was messy, her eyes red, and her voice trembled as she said, "Before y'all cancel me, you need to hear the truth." Thousands of people joined within seconds. She continued, "Yes, I leaked the footage, but I wasn't the only one. Mona knew some of it. VH1 knew all of it. They told me to keep the cameras rolling even when Kirk and Rasheeda weren't supposed to be filmed. They wanted raw drama, and they got it." The comments exploded. "Mona knew. This is bigger than we thought." Toni held up her phone and showed old production emails, blurred but real enough to stir suspicion. "They said if I didn't do it, I'd lose my job," she said, tears welling up. "So yeah, I leaked the files, but Jasmine wasn't my partner. She was my scapegoat. They used her just like they used everyone else." Within minutes, entertainment sites grabbed the story, and hashtags, like #VH1 exposed, started trending. Mona tried to issue a denial through a polished statement, but it was too late. The floodgates were open. Rasheeda saw the live and felt both vindicated and sick. All those years of being told it's just business now made sense. Kirk, pacing the living room, muttered, "So Mona knew the whole damn time." Rasheeda whispered, "She made us live in pain for ratings." Kirk turned to her, guilt heavy in his voice. "I let them turn us into entertainment, and you paid the price." She looked up at him, eyes full of quiet fury. "We both did." Their phones buzzed non-stop as every outlet wanted their response. But Rasheeda didn't want to feed the storm anymore. Instead, she sat down with a notepad and began writing something she hadn't done in years. Kirk watched silently as she scribbled lines, her expression calm for the first time in days. "What's that?" he asked. She said softly, "My story. The real one." Meanwhile, Mona's empire was crumbling. Sponsors pulled ads, cast members threatened walkouts, and former crew members began leaking their own experiences. An ex-cameraman spoke anonymously to the press, saying, "They told us to film everything, even when people said stop." The rule was, no moment is too personal if it sells. The public was disgusted. Fans who had once been addicted to the show now called it toxic exploitation. VH1 tried to distance itself from Mona, suspending production indefinitely. Mona, in damage control mode, showed up at Kirk and Rasheeda's doorstep one night, unannounced. Kirk opened the door and stared, speechless. Mona stood there in tears. "Please," she said, "let me explain." Rasheeda stepped into the hallway, her arms folded. "You don't need to explain. Toni already did." Mona shook her head. "She's twisting it. I never wanted this to happen." Rasheeda replied coldly, "But you let it." Mona's voice broke. "Rasheeda, you don't understand. If the show fell apart, hundreds of people would lose their jobs. I did what I had to do to keep it alive." Rasheeda's expression didn't change. "You kept it alive by bleeding us dry." Mona whispered, "I thought you were strong enough to handle it." That sentence hit like a slap. Rasheeda took a step forward. "Strong enough to be humiliated? To be filmed crying in my own house? No, Mona, I wasn't strong. I was trapped." Kirk tried to step between them, but Rasheeda turned and went back inside, leaving Mona standing alone in the hallway as security escorted her off the property. By the next morning, every outlet had the story. Rasheeda Frost rejects Mona Scott after secret visit. Public sympathy for Rasheeda skyrocketed. Fans flooded her page with messages of love and encouragement. She posted a simple photo of herself in her boutique, smiling faintly with the caption, "Healing." The image went viral, becoming a symbol of resilience. Kirk, inspired by her strength, announced he would take accountability too. He went live, saying, "I failed as a husband. I failed to protect my family. But from now on, I'm not hiding behind cameras. I'm gonna be the man my wife thought she married." For the first time in years, fans saw sincerity in his eyes. Some forgave him, others stayed skeptical, but everyone agreed this was the rawest the Frost story had ever been. But Jasmine wasn't done. That same evening, she posted a cryptic message. "Funny how everyone's playing victim when the real villain hasn't been named yet." She followed it with a blurry photo that appeared to show a contract bearing the VH1 logo and signatures including Rasheeda's. Fans began speculating that Rasheeda herself had once approved hidden footage for ratings, years ago. The comment sections went wild. Kirk confronted her that night. "Did you sign something like that?" Rasheeda looked stunned. "I don't remember that exact contract, but they always threw new papers at us before filming. We trusted them." Kirk frowned. So you might have signed away our privacy without even knowing it. She nodded slowly. Probably, and that's how they kept control. Kirk sat back, realizing how deep the manipulation went. They didn't just film us, he said. They owned us. The next morning, Jasmine went live again, claiming she had more proof. They think they can blame me and Tony, but the receipts say otherwise. She showed screenshots of old emails suggesting that even early in the show, both Kirk and Rasheeda knew about unfiltered at-home footage clauses. The comments went insane. People started turning on Rasheeda, accusing her of hypocrisy. She refused to respond publicly, but that night, she told Kirk quietly, "Let them talk. The truth's already ugly." "No one wins now," he asked. "So what are you gonna do?" She replied, "I'm still writing. When I'm done, they'll hear my version and it'll be the last one." Kirk nodded, finally understanding. Over the next week, the chaos reached its peak. VH1 executives resigned. Jasmine's accounts got suspended after a privacy lawsuit, and Tony disappeared again, rumored to have fled the country. Mona faced public backlash so severe that even her longtime allies cut ties. And then, one quiet morning, Rasheeda posted a video titled "The Final Chapter." It wasn't flashy or dramatic, just her sitting in her studio, reading from her journal. "They filmed us crying, fighting, breaking," she said. "They turned our love story into a circus. But the thing about pain is it changes you. It shows you what's real." Her voice softened. "So this is for anyone who's ever been watched, judged, or used. Your story belongs to you. Don't let anyone edit it." The video racked up millions of views in hours. Fans called it the most powerful thing she's ever done. Even Mona, watching from her empty office, whispered to herself, she finally took her story back. But as the world celebrated Rasheeda's strength, a small clip leaked from an unknown account, grainy footage showing Jasmine in a recording studio, saying to someone off camera, "It's not over till she pays for what she did." The screen cut to black, leaving fans gasping. After months of chaos, betrayal, and truth, it became clear that the final battle between Rasheeda and Jasmine hadn't really ended, it had only gone underground. The studio lights were already dimmed when Rasheeda walked back into the hallway, her face pale but her posture still firm, like a woman who knew the damage was done but refused to show it. Jasmine's name was still trending online, her fans twisting every clip, every whisper, every unfinished sentence from that hidden camera footage. Kirk had gone completely silent, shutting down his socials and staying off set. Even Mona Scott herself had called a late-night emergency meeting with the production team, trying to figure out how to control the wildfire that the footage had started. "We need to pull it down," she said, pacing back and forth. "This isn't a storyline anymore, it's a scandal." But by then, it was too late. Copies were everywhere. Bloggers were breaking down every frame. People were convinced that Rasheeda had confessed something huge. Something about Jasmine that the public wasn't supposed to know. One fan wrote, "Rasheeda didn't just talk, she exposed a secret that could destroy Kirk's image forever." Another commented, "This feels like a setup." Mona knew the cameras were there. While the world was spinning theories, Rasheeda sat alone in her dressing room, scrolling through the chaos. Her makeup was still on, but her eyes looked tired. She whispered to herself, "They really think I would do her like that." She placed her phone face down and stared at her reflection. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the lights. Then came the soft knock on the door. "It's Jasmine." Rasheeda didn't answer right away. Jasmine opened the door slowly, her eyes red but her tone calm. "I just need to talk." Rasheeda looked up, cautious. "About what?" Jasmine stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "About what's being said out there. About what they think you said." Rasheeda exhaled. "You think I planned that?" Jasmine shook her head. "No. But people do. And they're dragging both of us through hell right now." Rasheeda looked down, twisting her ring. "I shouldn't have said anything, not even that joke. It was supposed to be off the record." Jasmine sat across from her. "You said more than a joke." The silence was thick. Rasheeda's throat tightened. "I was angry, Jasmine. I was tired. All that talk about how I should have treated you different, how I should have forgiven faster, it just got to me. I said things I didn't mean." Jasmine nodded slowly. "The problem is, people believe you meant them." She paused, her tone softening. "I didn't want this either. I didn't want us to end up like this, me looking like I'm chasing your man, you looking like the villain." Rasheeda looked up, eyes glistening. "You hurt me, Jasmine. No matter how much time passes, that part doesn't just disappear." Jasmine's voice cracked. "I know, but this isn't how it should have gone." The air between them shifted, less about fame, more about regret. Then the door creaked again. Kirk walked in quietly, phone still in his hand. Both women looked up. They're saying VH1's about to air the full call, he said flatly. The one between you and Mona. Rasheeda's eyes widened. What? Kirk nodded. They're calling it exclusive footage. Supposed to drop tonight. Jasmine stood up, shaking her head. That's crazy. She's gonna look even worse. Kirk rubbed his temples. They don't care. They want views. They want fire. Rasheeda felt her chest tighten as she remembered that called the anger in her voice, the way she'd said Jasmine's name. If that call airs, I'm done, she whispered. Kirk leaned against the wall. Then we need to fix this before it does. Jasmine crossed her arms. How? They already got what they want. Kirk looked at both of them. We go live. All three of us. We control the story before VH1 spins it. Rasheeda hesitated. That's not gonna stop the hate. It's not about stopping it, Kirk said, his tone sharpening. It's about surviving it. Hours later, when the live went up, thousands joined instantly. The screen split into three: Rasheeda in her room, Kirk in his car, Jasmine in her apartment. The chat exploded the moment they appeared. Comments flew faster than they could read. Is this real? Rash and Jasmine face to face. Where's Mo? Rasheeda took a deep breath and started, her voice trembling but clear. What y'all saw wasn't the full story. There's a lot being twisted. Jasmine nodded slightly, letting her speak. Kirk kept his face neutral, watching both women. I said things in anger, Rasheeda continued, things that shouldn't have been caught on camera. But I didn't mean harm. Jasmine and we've both been through a lot. And the truth is, no one outside of us knows what that feels like. The chat kept flying. Some calling her fake, others saying she finally looked human again. Jasmine spoke next, her tone careful. I'm not here to fight. I just want peace. People keep trying to make us enemies, but I don't hate her. I never did. Kirk nodded slowly, interjecting. This whole thing got way too deep. It's supposed to be a show, but it turned into real life. There was a pause. Rasheeda looked straight into the camera. This isn't about who's right or wrong anymore. It's about the fact that we're all human. I made mistakes. So did she. And I'm owning mine. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was heavy. The comments slowed for the first time in 20 minutes. Then someone typed, "THIS is what we needed to hear." The chat started shifting. Support began to appear among the chaos. We forgive you, Rasheeda. This was brave. Love both of y'all for doing this. When they ended the live, it had already hit over 1 million views in under an hour. Jasmine smiled faintly through tears. That might have saved you. Rasheeda shook her head. No, it saved both of us. Kirk sighed, relief mixing with exhaustion. Now let's hope Mona doesn't drop that call anyway. But deep down, they all knew Mona Scott wasn't one to back down when the cameras were still rolling. The morning after their joint live, Rasheeda awoke to a barrage of notifications. Every app, every platform, every fan account was reposting clips, dissecting every word, every gesture. Rasheeda finally speaks. Jasmine admits she wasn't the villain. Frost family takes control of narrative. She sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, staring at the notifications and feeling an unfamiliar sense of calm beneath the storm. Kirk stirred beside her, groaning. You look tired but relieved. She gave a faint smile. I think it's the first time in months I actually feel like myself. He nodded, rubbing his temples. We survived it, at least, this part of it. She shook her head. We haven't even scratched the surface. Mona's probably in the office scheming as we speak. They both laughed softly, a dry, brittle sound born from too many sleepless nights and too much chaos. Yet even in that laughter, there was hope. Somewhere deep in the wreckage, they found a thread of clarity. Meanwhile, Jasmine had returned to her apartment, scrolling through her own notifications. The mix of support and backlash was overwhelming. Fans debated endlessly, some praising her honesty, others claiming she manipulated the situation to appear blameless. She rubbed her temples and leaned back, thinking about the months of plotting, recording, and releasing footage that had made her notorious. Was it worth it? She whispered to herself. The answer didn't come. Instead, her phone buzzed again. It was an anonymous message. We're not done. You can't just walk away. The story isn't yours yet. Her heart skipped. Who was this? Was it Tony, Mona, or someone else entirely? She tapped the screen, but the message had disappeared, leaving nothing but a faint digital shadow. At VH1 headquarters, Mona sat in her office, the blinds drawn, her usually immaculate hair slightly mussed. The news feeds were relentless. Everyone knew about Tony's confession, the live feed with Rasheeda and Jasmine, and now the anonymous messages circulating among fans. She ran her fingers through her hair, muttering, "This is why you never underestimate the power of real people, real emotion." Her assistant knocked and entered, holding a printed stack of emails. "Ma'am, production's demanding guidance. The cast, the crew, everyone wants to know what's next." Mona waved her hand. Tell them we regroup. But no one talks until I say so. This whole empire could crumble if the wrong words slip." She leaned back in her chair, eyes narrowing. "And if Rasheeda and Kirk keep this momentum, it will." Back in Atlanta, Rasheeda and Kirk decided to retreat for a weekend. No cameras, no phones, just the two of them and a small cabin on the outskirts of town. The first night, they sat by the fireplace, the air thick with silence. Kirk finally spoke. "Rasheeda, I don't know if we'll ever get our privacy back, but I promise you this: we fight together, not against each other." She nodded, staring into the flames. "It's not just about fighting, it's about knowing who we are when no one's watching." Kirk smiled faintly. "And do you think we're ready for that?" She sighed. "We'll never fully be ready, but at least now we're choosing it, not letting them choose for us." Outside, the wind howled softly, as if echoing their resolve. Meanwhile, Jasmine began investigating the anonymous message herself. She traced IP addresses, reviewed digital breadcrumbs, and realized someone was monitoring her online activity. The realization was chilling. Someone wanted to control the narrative just as much as Mona had. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in months. "Tony, it's me," she said, voice low. "We need to talk. It's getting bigger than us." Minutes later, Tony appeared on video, eyes wide and frantic. "I know. I've been trying to stay ahead of it, but they're everywhere now." Jasmine narrowed her eyes. "Who? Tony, Mona, V, or someone else?" Tony shook her head. "Someone above all of us. Someone who wants this chaos to consume everything." Jasmine's stomach dropped. "Then we have to stop it." Tony's lips pressed thin. "How? We're just pawns in a game we never agreed to play." The next few days became a whirlwind. Rasheeda and Kirk's social media accounts were filled with fan questions, emotional support, and relentless speculation. Some fans demanded updates on what happened with Jasmine. Others wanted justice for the alleged hidden camera invasions. Rasheeda posted short clips, carefully measured, showing only moments of normal life, her laughing with Kirk, cooking meals, tending to their boutique. She wanted to remind everyone that the Frost family existed beyond the screen. Kirk took over writing their captions, a subtle nod to their unity. Behind the scenes, Mona was in crisis mode, attempting to control leaks, draft statements, and prevent further scandal. She called an emergency meeting with her senior producers. "We need to contain it, or we lose everything. Ratings, advertisers, credibility, they all evaporate if Rasheeda controls the narrative." The room was silent. Everyone knew the power had shifted. Mona, for the first time, felt powerless. Then came the unthinkable. A new video surfaced online, anonymous, showing a private conversation between Kirk and a network executive that had somehow bypassed all security. The clip, grainy and low quality, featured Kirk saying, "We can't stop her. She's too smart now. Everything we try, she'll turn it around." Fans gasped. "He's admitting it. He's scared. The Frost family is taking control." Mona's face paled as the video went viral. She knew that any attempt to manipulate the narrative now could backfire catastrophically. The internet had seized control. The viewers were no longer passive, they were active participants in the story. Rasheeda, witnessing the impact, realized her power. She sat down with Kirk, devising a careful plan. "We don't need to fight anymore," she said. "We just need to document our truth. Raw, honest, without anyone twisting it." Kirk nodded. "And what about Jasmine?" She paused. "We let her come when she's ready. We don't chase her. She either join or fade away." At that moment, her phone pinged. A message from Jasmine appeared. "I'm ready. Let's talk in person. Somewhere private." Rasheeda felt a mixture of apprehension and relief. Finally, an opportunity for closure, not for drama, but for resolution. The meeting was arranged at a quiet hotel, rooms discreetly booked under pseudonyms. Rasheeda and Kirk arrived early, waiting. Jasmine appeared, carrying only a small bag and a determined look. They sat, tense but composed. Rasheeda began, "We're not here to fight anymore. We just want the truth out, unfiltered." Jasmine nodded. "Same here. I don't want to ruin anyone's life. I want to set the record straight." Kirk leaned back, exhaling. "So this is it. The big reveal." Rasheeda's eyes softened. "The real reveal is, we're human, flawed, betrayed, scared, but we're choosing to move forward together, not against each other." Jasmine swallowed, nodding. "And maybe that's enough." For a long moment, none of them spoke, letting the weight of months of lies, leaks, and betrayals settle. Outside, the city hummed, oblivious to the fragile reconciliation happening in that quiet hotel room. But even as they left the hotel, they knew the world outside wouldn't wait. Clips would leak, screenshots would circulate, and social media would never forget. Yet Rasheeda felt stronger than ever. She held Kirk's hand, whispered, "We survived them. Now we survive ourselves." Kirk squeezed back. "Together?" And somewhere in the shadows, Jasmine followed, silently acknowledging that the story, this saga of hidden cameras, betrayal, and raw truths, was finally being told on their terms. The world could watch, speculate, and judge. But the Frost family had reclaimed their narrative, and no one, not Mona, not Tony, not VH1, not even Jasmine, could take that away. The battle had been long, brutal, and public, but Rasheeda knew something crucial. Survival wasn't about avoiding scandal. It was about owning every moment of it, standing tall in the chaos, and refusing to let anyone else write your story. The weeks that followed were a strange mixture of relief and tension. Fans still dissected every post, every comment, every small clip they could find, but now the Frost family had the upper hand. Rasheeda and Kirk carefully curated their social media presence, showing snippets of normal life, mornings in the kitchen, quiet walks, and moments of laughter that no camera crew had captured. It was a subtle rebellion against the invasive surveillance that had defined the past months. Meanwhile, Jasmine maintained a cautious distance, watching from the sidelines, occasionally posting cryptic updates that hinted she was still processing everything. Mona, on the other hand, had become a figure of public scorn. Her name was dragged across headlines, and former employees came forward with stories of pressure, manipulation, and exploitation that painted her as the architect of the chaos. Despite all this, she refused to fully disappear, releasing calculated statements that tried to reclaim some semblance of control. Rasheeda, however, had shifted her focus inward. She spent hours journaling, turning over every moment of betrayal, every conversation, and every glance that had been recorded without her consent. She realized that the hidden cameras had revealed not just conflicts but raw truths, her own fears, anger, and moments of vulnerability. She began to see that the drama, while cruel, had also forced honesty. Kirk watched her transformation quietly, proud yet humbled. "You're stronger than I ever imagined," he said, one evening as they sat on the porch, the city lights flickering in the distance. She smiled faintly. "I had no choice but to be. They took everything, but they couldn't take me." Kirk nodded, understanding that survival wasn't about avoiding exposure, it was about reclaiming oneself after it. Jasmine's next move was subtle but deliberate. She started sharing behind-the-scenes insights about the production, never directly naming anyone but hinting at the corruption, manipulation, and pressure behind the scenes. The audience began to realize that while Rasheeda had been the victim, she wasn't the only one manipulated by the system. Speculation ran rampant online, forums debated the ethics of reality television, and even mainstream media weighed in. Some praised Jasmine for her transparency. Others accused her of trying to save face after her own involvement. The tension between public perception and private reality had reached an unprecedented peak. One evening, Rasheeda received a call from an unexpected source, a former VH1 editor who had witnessed months of behind-the-scenes chaos. "Rasheeda," the voice whispered nervously, "you need to see these files. They show the full extent of what was filmed and what was altered." She agreed to meet, intrigued but cautious. Kirk accompanied her, both of them wary of another potential trap. In a dimly lit parking garage, the editor handed over a small hard drive. "This is everything," he said. "You can use it to set the record straight or to protect yourself from any future manipulation." Rasheeda clutched the drive, feeling the weight of power and responsibility in her hands. "We'll be careful," she said, determination sharpening her voice. As Rasheeda and Kirk began reviewing the footage, the depth of the deception became horrifyingly clear. Scenes had been edited to provoke conflicts. Conversations had been spliced to misrepresent intentions, and private moments had been broadcast without consent. Every time they watched, the anger surged, followed by exhaustion, and then a resolve to reclaim their narrative. "This is insane," Kirk muttered, staring at the screen. "How did they get away with all of this?" Rasheeda shook her head. "Because people wanted to believe the drama more than the truth. We'll have to give them a reason to see the real story." They decided to release a carefully structured video, piecing together their side of the events, highlighting manipulation, and exposing the selective editing that had caused public misconceptions. The video quickly went viral, viewed millions of times in just hours. Fans flooded the comments with support, many expressing relief that the truth was finally being shared. Yet the public's fascination with Jasmine's role remained intense. She watched the video quietly, weighing her next steps. Eventually, she posted a short statement acknowledging her participation but clarifying that she had been coerced and that her intention had never been to harm Rasheeda. The measured response shifted public opinion subtly, painting Jasmine as both participant and victim. Despite these efforts, the tension remained palpable. Mona's name continued to haunt headlines, yet she seemed more isolated, with former allies reluctant to defend her. VH1 faced scrutiny, internal investigations, and potential lawsuits. While the Frost family cautiously began rebuilding their public image, Rasheeda focused on her boutique, Kirk on rebuilding trust with his wife, and Jasmine on navigating her own reputation. The storm that had once consumed their lives had now calmed into a lingering undercurrent, a reminder of how quickly control could slip and how carefully narrative needed to be managed. At night, Rasheeda would sit by the window, reflecting on everything that had transpired. The hidden cameras, the betrayals, the public spectacle, it had all left scars, but also clarity. She knew that vigilance, honesty, and unity would be their greatest defense against future manipulation. Kirk joined her quietly, placing a hand on hers. "We survived it," he whispered, "and we'll survive whatever comes next." She nodded, squeezing his hand. "Together, no one can take that from us." Outside, the city lights twinkled, indifferent to the personal battles fought and won. A silent witness to the resilience of a family that had endured the unthinkable and emerged stronger, cautious, and ready for whatever lay ahead. The final twist came quietly. A package arrived at Rasheeda's boutique, an unmarked envelope containing a note and a single USB drive. The note read, "For your eyes only." The rest of the story. Curiosity and caution warred within her as she looked at Kirk. "Do we open it?" he asked. She nodded slowly, aware that whatever was on that drive could change everything again. Plugging it into her laptop, they saw footage, emails, and messages that revealed the full extent of the conspiracy, including unnamed executives who had orchestrated the drama from above. The revelation was staggering. Rasheeda felt a mix of vindication and dread. The story she had thought was over had another chapter, one that could either destroy more lives or finally set the record straight for everyone involved. They spent hours reviewing the contents, meticulously planning their next moves. The footage confirmed that Jasmine had been partially manipulated, that Mona's role had been central, and that some cast members had played unwitting parts in the drama. It was a web of deception, and Rasheeda knew the importance of careful, calculated action. She turned to Kirk. "We release this right. We end it. We release it wrong. We start over from zero on. The public will eat us alive." Kirk nodded, the gravity of the decision sinking in. Together, they drafted a plan. Transparency first, accountability second, and no room for misrepresentation. The final chapter of the scandal was theirs to control, and this time, they would not be victims, they would be narrators of their own story. The dawn of that decision marked a turning point. The Frost family had reclaimed their narrative, tempered their anger, and prepared to reveal truths that had long been hidden. The hidden cameras, the betrayals, the manipulations, they were no longer weapons used against them. Instead, they were evidence of resilience, proof of survival, and a testament to the power of taking back control. The world would watch, speculate, and judge. But Rasheeda and Kirk, side by side, understood something fundamental. In the chaos of exposure and scandal, the only thing that truly belonged to them was their story, and they were finally ready to tell it on their terms. Now that you've followed the whirlwind of events, the hidden cameras, the leaked footage, the betrayals, and the tense confrontations, it's time to pause and really reflect on what this story teaches us. You've seen Rasheeda endure humiliation, manipulation, and public scrutiny, yet rise stronger and more determined than ever. You've witnessed Kirk struggle to protect his family while navigating a media storm that felt impossible to survive. And you've watched Jasmine grapple with her own choices, her own mistakes, and her path to accountability. This story isn't just about drama, it's about resilience, honesty, and reclaiming control when the world seems determined to misrepresent you. It's a reminder that even when the cameras are always on, when every word can be twisted, and when betrayal comes from every direction, you have the power to define your own narrative, to choose how you respond, and to reclaim your dignity. If you were shocked by Rasheeda's raw honesty, if you felt the tension when Kirk confronted Mona, or if Jasmine's hesitant steps toward truth made you hold your breath, then you know how powerful this story truly is. Reality television, social media, and entertainment news often try to convince us that what we see is all that exists, but this tale proves otherwise. It's not just the staged moments, the edited clips, or the viral headlines that define someone's life. It's the choices made in private, the courage to speak out, and the determination to stand firm even when millions are watching and judging. You've seen Rasheeda reclaim her story, and through her, we're reminded that no one else gets to dictate your worth, your voice, or your truth. Here's where you come in. Because this story isn't over until the conversation continues. We want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Rasheeda handled the exposure with grace? Do you feel Jasmine was unfairly treated, or do you think she played a part in escalating the chaos? What about Mona Scott and VH1? Should there be accountability for how far they pushed the cast for the sake of ratings? Your opinion matters. Because the debate around this story reflects a larger truth, fame, scrutiny, and public perception can be brutal. But resilience, honesty, and integrity are always worth rooting for. Your voice adds to the dialogue and helps others see that behind every viral moment, there are real people navigating real emotions. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, if every twist left you gasping or questioning what you thought you knew, then make sure you stay connected. Subscribe to our channel to keep following the latest updates, because with Rasheeda, Kirk, and Jasmine, there's always more to uncover, and every development could change everything we thought was true. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment. From explosive revelations to heartfelt confessions. Because this isn't just entertainment, it's the raw, unfiltered human experience being broadcast for the world to witness. And don't just watch, engage. Comment below and share your take on what really happened behind the scenes. Do you think the hidden camera drama was justified, or was it a line that should never have been crossed? Which moment shocked you the most, the leaked footage, Rasheeda's live confession, Kirk's confrontation, or the final revelations about VH1 and Mona? Your opinions spark conversations that matter. And your engagement supports content that dives deep into the stories you're passionate about. We read every comment, we discuss every theory, and we value your perspective. Because this story only grows more powerful when it includes the voices of those who care the most. Finally, remember that beyond the drama and the headlines, this story is ultimately about owning your truth. Rasheeda's journey shows that even when betrayal, exposure, and manipulation threaten to define you, there's strength in speaking up, courage in confronting the past, and freedom in reclaiming your narrative. Kirk's support highlights the importance of solidarity, and Jasmine's reflections remind us that accountability can coexist with forgiveness. These lessons extend beyond the cameras and the screens. They're relevant in every aspect of life. In personal struggles, relationships, and moments when you feel misunderstood or misrepresented. So don't just be a passive viewer. Like this video if Rasheeda's resilience inspired you. Subscribe to keep following this ongoing saga, and comment below with your thoughts, predictions, and takeaways. Share the video with friends who need a reminder that truth, courage, and honesty matter, no matter how chaotic the world around you may become. And most importantly, carry the lesson forward. Your story is yours to tell, your voice is yours to control, and no one, not the cameras, not the media, not even the people closest to you, can take that away. Stay engaged, stay informed, and stay empowered. Because the Frost family may have reclaimed their narrative, but the conversation and the impact continues with you.